So this is probably one of the most hated decks that I own. Um, it's not a crazy powerful deck, but that's not even a fair statement. Okay, it's not a crazy powerful deck in the sense that it is oppressive and it can't be dealt with because it can be dealt with. But it is fast and it is scary certainly. And if left unchecked, it can very quickly close out the game. But it's not Thrasios Timna scary. It's not Teferi, Chainveil Teferi scary. But yeah, they're slivers, so they're kind of scary. I think this is probably the best sliver commander because it allows you to search your library for a sliver and put it into your hand. That aspect of this card makes it really hard to justify running any other sliver as your commander, since this one can get you whichever sliver you didn't pick as your commander. So I really don't see a very strong argument for doing other slivers other than perhaps nostalgia with Sliver Queen, or I really don't know. I can't think of it. So Bone Scythe Sliver. Part of the thing with slivers is you have to make cuts for redundant cards and redundant effects. And you typically just pick the one that costs the least amount of mana when doing so, or whichever one fits the most in your colors. So I went with Bone Scythe Sliver. There is the red one, Fury Sliver from Time Spiral, I believe, or maybe Fury Stoke. Something, I forget what exactly it is. But it also gives your slivers double strike, but for 5 colors and 1 red as well. Armillary Sphere. There's better stuff than this, but the deck is a 5-color deck, and I'm not running any fetches or duels in it because this is more of it's like a casual deck for me. So I didn't really bother beefing it up. Giving your slivers vigilance, pretty simple. Nothing wrong with doing that. Dormant Sliver. This one's really, really good. The card draw you get off of it can often help you win the game, if not just win the game outright, by basically just drawing into lots of slivers, playing them, drawing into lots of slivers. It can really get your board, make your board huge, and then of course you'll have to find a way to sacrifice it or bounce it back to your hand. Venom Sliver, Death Touch on all your slivers is good. Most of your slivers can't kill things without Death Touch, so you're going to want to have it. And the fact that there's a couple cards in here that allow your slivers to tap and ping makes that Death Touch even more valuable. Root Sliver, you have to have it in the deck. If you don't run it in the deck, I hope you never come across a blue deck. Commander Sphere, it's a 5-color deck, no brainer. Gale Rider Sliver, really, really good. I think this is 100% necessary in the deck. There's zero room to have a deck without, you can't make a Sliver deck without evasion. Either you want, the flying one or the shadow one. I like flying because in conjunction with the Vigilance Sliver, it gives you the ability to really get up in the air and kill people without having to leave yourself exposed. Same thing with the shadow. So Necrotic Sliver is really good because you have Dormant Sliver in the deck and you'll need to get rid of it to be able to attack. Vindicate on a stick for all your slivers is insanely good. I just passed over 2 Signets, so you should probably run some Signets as well. Might Sliver, +2/+2 for all your slivers. Not bad. Soul Ring, I think it's fine in the deck. But it's not it's not going to help you get your commander out. So, I don't know. Descendant's Path is an auto include. The artwork is really weird. It always kind of, I don't know. The artwork always threw me off on this card. It's not bad. It just threw me off. It's Therese Nielsen, so it's nice. But I always kind of thought that some of the people in it looked too much like actual pictures instead of, painted. So whatever. It has nothing to do with the card itself. It's a really good card. this thing is just, it's nuts. This card is really insane. It lets you just cheat out slivers, and cheating in Magic is good to do, unless you're one of those pros and got caught and scandals and such. Don't do that. Hedron Archive, it's just card draw. That's all it is. There's probably better card draw effects in here, and the fact that it has 2 colors is not super helpful. So I probably should actually take that out and just put in better card draw. Crypt Sliver, having slivers be able to tap and regenerate target sliver is super annoying for your opponents, since a lot of people don't even bother running Wrath or Damnation anymore. They just run Day of Judgment or like some of the new ones that like don't get around regeneration, because it's kind of like an older mechanic that isn't like as prevalent. So yeah, I think he's really important to run in the deck. It'll really throw your opponents off. Giving your slivers haste, that's extremely necessary, because you can tutor them up with Sliver Overlord and then have them come in with haste. Intruder Alarm. So this card actually ends up being an infinite combo, which I hadn't really thought about when I put it in the deck. I was just trying to maximize like ping value, ping damage, and all that type of stuff. But basically, if you have Intruder Alarm, and you have at least like 4 or 5 creatures, you're going to pretty easily go infinite, because once you get out like a Gemhide Sliver, you can tap 5 slivers to get 5 mana, search for a sliver with CMC 2 or less, put it into play, and as long as your slivers have haste, you can then tap that creature, and now you have 6 mana. You can untap all your creatures when it comes in, and tap, untap, tap, untap, search, and you just spew out your entire deck and then kill someone with hasty slivers. So it's a good card. I would recommend running it in the deck. Be aware it has not been reprinted recently. It is not on the reserve list, and it's like $20. So just kind of get ready to be hosed on that card. Muscle Sliver, it's fine. It's a little, it's kind of lightweight, but I think that you do want to try and establish a reasonably strong board presence early on to try and get you into that mid-game Sliver Overlord tutoring to win the game. Synapse Sliver, card's awesome. Card is so good. Getting to just draw all these cards off that thing is really fun. Strongly recommend it. Opaline Sliver, so it's like value off of your opponent's targeting things. There's really no reason not to run it. It's kind of like a concession prize for when your opponent starts blowing up your creatures, at least with targeted removal. Primal Surge, the only reason you can run it in this deck is because I don't run any non-permanent cards in the deck, which was intentional for Primal Surge. So I play Primal Surge, and I vomit the entire deck onto the battlefield and then win the game. So it's pretty cool. So Shifting Sliver, slivers can be blocked except by slivers. It's another layer of evasion. The artwork's pretty cool. I think it's worth running in the deck, even though it's a little bit more expensive, mana wise. Leeching Sliver, it's good. I think, so I haven't looked at the new slivers that came out in Modern Horizons yet. I don't think I did. Maybe I did. I don't think I put any in the deck, certainly. But I think there was one that allows you to ping, and if there is, I'll probably take this out for that sliver instead. It's not bad to have the attack trigger, they lose life, but it's not as good as like being able to just sit back and ping things. Telekinetic Sliver, super, super, super annoying card. So you should definitely run it in the deck. I skipped over another signet. I'm not going to show any of the signets. I think, you know why to do those. Sliver Queen, unfortunately, I think this card's probably really expensive now. Or let me rephrase that. This card is very expensive now, and I don't think it's going to get any cheaper. But, would I spend $150, $200 on this card now? Probably not. It is on the reserve list, so that's cool, and it's an incredibly iconic sliver. And being able to make a bunch of sliver tokens obviously is cool and fun. So, if you can get one, I think it's worth having in the deck. Psionic Sliver, it's a good one to have. The thing to consider with Psionic Sliver is it's really good with Fungus Sliver. It's not quite as good without Fungus Sliver, so I may end up taking it out because I believe I took out Fungus Sliver. Again, the ping effect is nice because whenever your slivers get Death Touch, it's cool. But in the same respect, it's probably better to just stick with the straight pingers to take advantage of the Death Touch and not deal damage to itself. So actually, oh, I did, yeah. So this is the one from Modern Horizons. So I did get this, and I haven't even gotten to play the deck with it yet, or gotten to play it yet. But I mean, it gives your slivers Cascade. I hate Cascade as a mechanic. I hate Cascade decks in EDH more than probably anything else. I would rather lose to Thrasios Tymna than Maelstrom Wanderer or new Yidris, whatever. Like, literally, Cascade is my least favorite mechanic in EDH of all possible things. I would like rather lose to Storm, Doomsday, everything you can, like everything you can imagine other than Cascade. Absolutely hate it. But here it is in my Sliver deck, which is already a deck people hate. So screw you guys. That's what you get. Blur Sliver gives your slivers haste. Come on. We know how that works. We like it. Constricting Sliver. This card's super, super, super annoying. You have to run it in the deck. Even though it's a 6-drop, you have so many times where you're just going to put a bunch of slivers onto the battlefield at once that it's going to get really annoying really quick. I think this one's worth having in the deck, but you do have to draw the line. Sorry. You have to draw the line at some point because there's a lot of slivers that pump your creatures, but I don't think it's really actually worth having all the slivers that pump creatures. I think you want to have like one or two, really. Obviously, the best creature for pumping slivers is Sliver Legion by a huge margin. And yeah, I don't run it in this deck, unfortunately, because it's like $100 now, and it's got one printing. It's not on the reserve list. If there's ever a card that I wouldn't want to hold, when it comes time for like, you know, Wizards reprinting cards, aka any set, that's like definitely the card I would not want to be holding. Yeah, it's not going to go into standard, but I say that, but I don't think it's going to go into standard, but I still just afraid. Chromatic Lantern, I think you understand why it's in the deck. Don't really have to explain it. Gemhide Sliver, it's really important to have Gemhide and Mana Weft Sliver in your deck. Ward Sliver is in here because getting protection from a color is really, really good. And you can also flash him in with certain slivers as a, you know, surprise protection, which is even better than just like, you know, regular protection. Brood Sliver. So Sliver tokens are really nice, and if you can't afford a Sliver Queen, I think that this is a really good you know, budget option as well. It's, you know, it makes sliver tokens on combat damage, so it's good. Hibernation Sliver is a must-have. It can protect you from board wipes. It can help you recur ETB triggers. It helps you get Dormant Sliver back from the field into your hand. So you really, everything about that card is just fantastic. That's an auto include for sure. Coat of Arms card's absolutely nuts. It's almost too good to put in the deck, to be fair. Honestly, like, I don't know. It really is almost too good. Mana Weft Sliver, we already explained that one. Mirror Entity, he's fun because he's kind of like Coat of Arms except with mana. Since you can make infinite mana in the deck, obviously you can easily abuse this card. I'm kind of mad at myself for not running the Lorwyn copy in this deck. So oops. Alright, so Pulmonic Sliver is actually extremely important in the deck. You have to run it if you're going to run Primal Surge, because otherwise, if they, you know, fog you after you did your Primal Surge and you don't win the game that turn, you won't have any cards in your deck and you'll lose the game when you go to draw. So you need the Pulmonic Sliver in there if you do Primal Surge. The flying's nice off of it. It's a 3/3. It's kind of hard to see. There you go. Yeah, so it's definitely good. And it does help you kind of recur ETB triggers in general if you need creatures coming in, like, you can keep sacrificing like a high CMC Sliver and then casting it again for Cascade triggers off of the first Sliver. Haven't gotten to try it yet, but I'm, that would work. Clot Sliver is not as good as Crypt Sliver because it requires mana to activate, but in the same respect, it also allows you to attack and still be able to regenerate your guys, whereas Crypt Sliver wouldn't unless you had Vigilance. Sliver Hive Lord, very necessary in this deck. Auto include, without question. Making your guys indestructible is one of the most important things you can do, because the easiest way to kill slivers is with board wipes. In fact, that's what I'd recommend for killing slivers. So this makes it harder to do that. Hunter Sliver, giving slivers provoke. Provoke is actually a fun mechanic. While I don't think it's like incredibly powerful, it can, pry protected creatures that are making your life difficult, that your opponents are refusing to block with. It can, force them into combat. So I think he's worth having. Essence Sliver gives your slivers lifelink. I'm assuming that's been errated to be lifelink keyword, not just kept that way. I don't know. Cryptolith Rite, you have to have it in this deck. It also allows you to go infinite with Intruder Alarm, again, if you have your Sliver Overlord out and enough creatures. I do run Sliver Hive. I actually don't know what it does. Oh, add 1 mana of any color for a Sliver. So, and it makes Sliver tokens. So, yeah, that's a really good card in this deck then. You should run it. Bone Splitter. So this card could, again, you could cut this because you already have Magantic Sliver, Might Sliver, and I think I was running the green one, right? Muscle Sliver. I wasn't running the white one from Planar Chaos. Anyway, Sinew Sliver. Yeah, so I think you could cut this, but, +2/+0 obviously is nothing to, scoff at. Homing Sliver, it allows you to just pitch slivers to tutor for slivers. Definitely worth having in the deck. Quick Sliver gives your slivers flash. And he has flash, so that's really nice. Winged Sliver, so same deal, right? We already have Gale Rider, it's redundant. We have Gale Rider, we have Pulmonic, and we have Winged Sliver, plus the other ones that give slivers some form of evasion. So do you really need this in here? Probably not. Crystalline Sliver, this you have to have in the deck. This thing's just an auto include, but keep in mind that it gives your slivers Shroud, not hexproof, so you can't target them with your own spells or abilities. So that can mess you up. Just keep it in mind. Diffusion Sliver, it basically turns all your slivers into mini Frost Titans, so minus the frost effect. So it's cool. And there's Sinew Sliver, which is also in the deck. So again, there's a lot of Sliver Lord effects in the deck. I don't think you actually need that many. So I do want to evaluate the new ones from Modern Horizons and see about possibly getting rid of them. One of the ones that I liked a lot was it was basically like a Sky Knight Legionnaire Sliver. I think it gave them flying and haste. I'll have to double check if that's correct, but if that is, then that card's awesome. Virulent Sliver, all slivers have Poisonous 1. So poison, for people who don't know it, is basically just worse infect. So poison is whenever the creature deals combat damage to a player, it deals its poison value to that player. It does not give them poison counters based on the amount of damage that it dealt to them. But we run it. Predatory Sliver, I honestly didn't even remember this thing existed. So there's another Sliver Lord effect. Yep. Two-headed, it gives slivers menace. That's really annoying, and that can definitely help you win games. Wild Pair, I love this card, and the versatility it provides is incredible. Slivers have always been about, toolbox and, ebb and flow and shifting and all that stuff, and this card just, really augments that theme. It gives your slivers lifelink. So we already have Essence Sliver, which is 4 mana for the same effect. I think lifelink is good enough. Sorry. I think it's good enough in the deck to warrant running 2 for it. All slivers have trample. This is a must-have because you're going to have some big slivers, and you do not want people chump blocking with tokens all day long while they search for like board wipes and stuff. Harmonic Sliver, auto include. It turns your slivers into like Aura Shard triggers on ETB. Battle Sliver, so he's super redundant with the other one from Time Spiral, whose name I'm drawing a blank on, even though it was not that far down the stack. Bone Splitter Sliver. So he is literally just a worse Bone Splitter Sliver. You know, 1 more mana, but 1 more power and toughness. I don't think that's really worth it. So, you know, I'd probably end up cutting him. And that's it for the slivers. But really quick, I'm going to grab my binder, because I believe I have a couple new slivers in here. And I should actually just maybe evaluate cuts and explain why I'm cutting what I'm cutting for them, if I can find them. Oh, there we go. Okay. So I picked up oh, interesting. I don't even know if I like these actually. Okay, so and I did cut this for something. I cut it for the first sliver. Okay, so I ended up cutting. Let's go off. I cut Fury Sliver for the first sliver, just because we already had 1 double striker. I think that it would be better to take out the Battle Sliver. So I think Battle Sliver should come out for Fury Sliver, because in my opinion, +2/+0 is not as good as Double Strike. So we're gonna make that cut right now. We're gonna put Battle Sliver. We're gonna put Fury Sliver back in, and we're gonna cut Battle Sliver. So there you go. You know, now you can see it's in the sleeve. You know, in case you didn't trust that I was doing it, because I lie a lot about, you know, cards in my deck, clearly. So next one, Lava Belly Sliver. I got it. It was a throw-in in a trade, so whatever. I don't know how much I like it, but, you know, if my slivers have Death Touch, which I can get them, which they, you know, there's cards that do that, I think it's fine. So I'm probably going to put it in. I haven't quite figured out what I would want to cut for it yet, so I'll have to think about this. I may end up cutting Psionic Sliver, because that deals 2 damage to a target and then 3 damage to itself without Fungus Sliver probably just isn't, you know, really the smartest card to have in the deck. So I'm going to make that cut right now, and, you know, I'll kind of just see how it works. And then tentatively, I'm looking at also cutting, I'm probably just going to cut one of the other small Lord effects. I'm probably going to cut the white one, since I think that their deck is a little bit more of a green base. So I think we're going to drop Sinew Sliver. Oh, but I like the artwork on it more. I think we're going to we'll cut Predatory Sliver. Yeah. And maybe we cut Bone Splitter. Okay. So for now, here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, oh, so the other slivers I got Dregscape Sliver. So each sliver gets Unearth. It's hard to say. I think it's probably worth running this guy, simply because, you know, post board wipe, it allows you to get back into the game. And unlike Unearth, which was limited based on the CMC of the card, this just gives the sliver the ability Unearth. So yeah, I think that, you know, I do think it's worth running. I am going to put it in the deck. Probably going to end up taking out, for now, I'm going to take out Bone Splitter Sliver and see how the deck ends up running without it. So Bone Splitter is now out, and Dragscape is now in. So yeah, I think he's good. You know, board wipe protection is certainly important since I don't have anything in the deck at all to bring back creatures from the graveyard to either hand or battlefield. And the last one I got was a Spiteful Sliver. So I'm not 100% sure about this. It is really good if someone tries to wipe the board with like Chain Reaction. Then you could probably kill a couple people. So, you know, I look at that narrow case and I see that the card could have value. But you know, there's not always a ton of creatures out there that have a ton of power and toughness. And the fact that it can't target a creature makes me not quite sure if I want to put it in the deck. So for now, I think I'm not going to put it into the deck. But, you know, I'll definitely keep it in my binder for consideration. And last, yeah, I think I'm just going to, for now, I'm going to try and make the cut and see how it ends up running. I'm going to cut Psionic Sliver, which was this one. All slivers can tap to deal 2 damage to a creature or player and then 3 damage to themselves. So I'm going to cut the Psionic Sliver in exchange for Lava Belly Sliver. So, you know, comparing them side by side, right? One of the things that Psionic Sliver is really nice for, in addition to having the Fungus Sliver in the deck, is if your slivers are indestructible. So you have, you know, whatever his name was, out. Then if you have like Intruder Alarm and your slivers are indestructible, and then every time you play a sliver, you could untap all your slivers, deal 2 damage to a player for each sliver, and then untap them all, have another one come in. Like, you could kind of loop some ETB triggers and potentially kill someone if your slivers are indestructible. So like, you know, I like that aspect of Psionic Sliver, and also now that I think about it, Lava Belly Sliver doesn't allow you to target creatures, so man. You know what? I think we're keeping Psionic Sliver in here. I don't think Lava Belly Sliver is going to be a replacement because, you know, you can do some janky stuff with Psionic Sliver. It's convoluted, it's weird, but you can. Lava Belly, not quite as much. So, you know, if I was going to cut something, you know, the only other sliver I really want to add is the one that turns them into Sky Knight Legionnaires. Gives them the flying and haste, which I believe it is a sliver. I think it does exist. I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head. But it's out there. So, you know, in terms of cuts to the deck, I think if I were going to add the Sky Knight Legionnaire Sliver to the deck, then the way I'd probably go about it, Cloud Shredder? Is it Cloud Shredder? I think it's Cloud Shredder Sliver. Let me double check. Yep. Sliver creatures you control have flying and haste. So that card's absolutely nuts. I love it. I love that the artwork is almost identical to Sky Knight Legionnaire's artwork. Like, everything about that card I think is just fantastic. So like, basically I think you would cut out like Sinew or you know, any of the slivers that are giving your slivers +1/+1. I think you would cut those for like the Sky Knight Legionnaire. And then, you know, if I want to, I might add the Lava Belly Sliver for the ETB triggers, dealing damage to a player or Planeswalker. But other than that, there's not a lot of stuff I would really change about this deck. You know, if I got Sliver Legion, again, I'd probably just end up cutting one of the worst Lord Slivers. So basically, I think you can kind of see the theme here is that Double Strike is really good. Big Sliver Lords are good. Small Sliver Lords they're cute and they kind of help you in the early game, but you know, I think those are kind of more meta dependent, and you just have to understand what you're playing against, and if you really need to have that. So yeah, slivers are fun. Sliver Overlord, I think, is really, you know, your best sliver commander. And beyond that, not much much else I'd say about the deck. Mana base is tough, so keep that in mind when you're building it, and when you start committing to a sliver deck, remember that it's you know, you got to be careful with your mana. Bye.